Painting goo 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 goo. Painting goo 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 goo. Painting 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 goo 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 goo. Painting goo 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 goo. Painting goo. Painting goo. Painting goo. Painting goo. Painting goo. Painting goo. Ah yes, Milo the monkey, getting those knickers. Ticker the ivories for every rust, minuscule knicker. Painting goo. 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 Goo 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 goo. Painting goo 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 goo. Paint sip sip sip. Rant rant rant. Paint goo. Painting goo. Painting goo. Painting goo. Painting goo. Painting goo. Painting goo. Goo 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 goo. Goo 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 goo. Everybody clap your mortar hands together. Your filthy mortar hands, your pathetic, undisciplined, lawless, degenerate mortar hands together. For Milo the monkey, bring us in on another... Oh, it fair. The pop hair fair upon his head. There you go, you beautiful little monkey. You have been ridden of your burden of the pop hair. How dare I arouse the stargate to far upon the monkey, eh? Ah, listen to him gently stroke those beautiful keys of black and whiter. Allow Milo to tickle your chi into beginning to flow strongly for today's painting goo. Goo 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 goo. Paint 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 goo 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 goo. Ah, so beautiful. Bring it home, Milo. Do it for the people. Pray it, you filthy monkey. Put a ball! Put a ball! Put a tip on the monkey's ball! Myro's survivor, rise sorry upon your pity and charity. Paintingu! Paintingu! Can you feel it? Can you feel your chi rising? How does he do it? How do you do it, Myro? How do you pray so well and remain so still? It's as if he is a living statue-like embodiment of musical proficiency. You can't see it from there, but his tiny paws are lightning quick. Bring it home, Myro. Remind the mortals what beauty is. What is more beautiful than a monkey playing the piano? It's so beautiful. Can you fear his passion? So beautiful. And then I get a text message and my phone falls off. Greetings and yokoso. Willkommen auf einer Paintingu? A glorious episode of Paintingu. That was Myro, our beautiful resident monkey, created and crafted by my very own female counterpart. He is indeed gloriously efficient at the piano. However, I am obligated, as a former god of Paintingu, cursed by the Monkey King of Heaven, to treat him like shit. I do not feed him, I do not clothe him, I barely accommodate him. So if you wish Myro to keep playing the piano for you on these beautiful, beautiful streams, you must pay for Paintingu. You must put your honor in his bowl, for his survivor depends upon it. Aras, we return to St. Vincent's and Grenadine, which, to be honest, I think I'm beginning to come to the conclusion is the shittest name for an island I've yet to come across. Who the fuck named this place? I want them flogged. I want them frogged. I don't know what it like. Like, you have been found guilty of theft. How do you plead? How do you plead? Not guilty. You have been found guilty. You are sentenced to frogging. Just get like, they put you in a stocks, like up against the wall or some shit. They just like fling poisonous toads at you. I mean, that would probably suck, you know? I mean, the initial impact would probably be quite benign, you know? Getting slapped with a fucking toad. I mean, someone would have to throw that like fairly fucking quick for it to cause any, you know, even a bruise or some shit. Like, and the poor toad, like, but the ones that secrete some liquid shit, like, you know, I wonder if you just like strapped a dude naked to a, like, you know, like spread eagle with ropes or some shit in between two trees or something. or like crucified his ass or some shit, and then just like spent days just flinging poisonous toads at him. Just like, you should have a basket of them, like, and you're wearing gloves or some shit, like, you know, they're covered in some sort of wax or resin so you don't get the shit on your hands, and you're just like, there would just be a faint slap, you know, just this like like, just every time Toad just hits him, just like you'd be like aiming for his face and shit. Like, reminds me of that scene in Ace Ventura, the second one, where the princess like comes across Ace in the middle of the night in the village, and he's just like spitting like rolls up thing of paper at your man who's trying to stand up on that pole. Your man's doing that like rite of passage thing where he has to stay on top of the fucking totem pole on 1 foot for like 3 days or some shit, like. And Ace is just sitting there with a bit of like, what would you call it? It's not bamboo. It's like it's like a reed out of a river or a pond or something, like. And he just has bits of paper and he's like chewing them up and just it's like one of the funniest things ever. Like, you are quite good at that. It's like, relax your shoulders and release. And your man's just like wobbling on the thing. Oh man, I love those movies. Chicago. Chicago? Chicago. Ah. Chicago. Shish kebab. Shawshank Redemption. Chicago. You're out of there. Fucking man, like every scene of those two movies is a fucking like laugh a minute. Like, first one starts with him kicking a package down the street. It's fucking epic. Like, so funny. Give him 40 rashes. You like somehow use like chemicals or like some kind of like, you know, I don't know what you'd call it, like some kind of like, you know, poultice or some shit to apply or like cause 40 different skin like ailments on the dude's body. That would suck. I'd rather get whipped 40 times like with like a cat's eye or some shit. Like, there's loads of things like I'd rather be whipped than suffer some shit like that. Like, do you know, like, you like 40 different kinds of skin irritation on you at once. You know, like for 5 minutes that'd probably be nothing. You know, you just be like, oh, I feel like shit. This is horrible. Like, you know, but for a few hours, days, oh, you're like writhing. You can't get sleep. Like, it eventually gets to the point where like some of the rashes are starting to bleed and stuff. Like, oh god, it'd be horrible. Like, there's like really simple ways to torture people, like, do you know. Remember that fucking, wasn't it like, I don't know if it's like an urban legend or like documented fact, but they used to use Sandman to like torture fucking torture lads that they caught. They'd put them in a dark room and just blare Metallica. Like, I always found the concept of that hilarious. Like, just some dude in a black bag on a chair in a dark room with a single light and just these huge amps blaring Sandman, like, and it's still just like, you know, fucking just breaking. Like, I'll tell you anything, just please stop the metal. Oh, this shit fucking makes me laugh, man. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure it would suck after a while, but there'd be loads of us that would just be like, it's not the music really, like, you know, you could blare anything for like an extended period of time, like, and you'd eventually just be like, oh my god, please turn it off, like, I'm so sick of this. Like, it doesn't have to be like Sandman by Metallica. That's some propaganda shit right there. That is, like, you know, it's hilarious. Like, this stuff is so extreme that, like, you know, they used it to torture foreigners. Like, give me a break. Like, although, now that I think about it, if they, like, even if they took, like, one classical song and just had it on a loop, blaring it, depending on the tune, it'd probably take a while for it to really irritate you. Because there'd be moments of it, more than likely, obviously, depending on the tune they selected, there'd be moments of it where, like, there would either be a respite or, like, it would just be so pleasant to listen to that, like, you wouldn't mind it on a loop and shit. Like, do you imagine if it was, like, fucking Cardi B's WAP or some shit? Like, just fucking, like, what would be a horrible one? Man, I think System of a Down would be hard, like, way more effective. You know? What's that song called again? Chop Suey? Wake up! Why don't you put on a little makeup? Like, if someone was just blaring that for 8, I have to keep me phone on loud because I have a package coming. And unfortunately, no, I don't think it's fucking 2 acres thing. It's something else. But I have to keep the fucking phone on loud. I have to keep the phone on loud. So it's rowdy. Like Piper. Sounds most unpleasant, Stabberoo. Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? Like, that's a horrible affliction, like, do you know what I mean? Or form of torture, like, it'd be so bad. Like I've had, like, some gnarly skin conditions, like, well, 1 or 2, not a lot, like, you know, I had one in particular that was like, what the fuck is happening, like, but I've gotten, like, I've had scabies, and I've had to, like, apply that, like, ointment and shit, and I ended up putting some on my balls. It was, like, the worst experience ever, like, I swear to... Did I tell this story before? I can't remember. I felt like my fucking sack was melting. Like, it was fucking unreal bad. It was that kind of burn where you were like I was checking every couple of minutes to see if I still had a, like, fucking scrotum. Like, I kept looking down being like, is it still there? I'm in so much pain. Like, I swear to God, like, at one stage I thought I was going to look down and smoke was going to be billowing from my groin. Like, so fucking bad. Whatever. I don't know what the fuck is in that ointment. It was unreal. Like, it was so fucking painful. Like, but it said, like, apply to all infected and uninfected. It, like, just lather yourself up in it and all. Like, and obviously it said, like, don't put it in your eyes and shit. But I was, like, covered in these things because they were in me carpet, like, you know. Shout out to Jordan Peterson. He's not wrong. Clean your room. Fucking, it was so bad. Like me and me mate got it at the same time. Like, just like one day, like, I was like itching my knee. I was like, why is my knee so itchy? That's an odd place to be that itchy. Like, and I like pulled up my trouser leg and looked at my knee, and I just see these, like, what looked like microscopic blisters, like, riddling my flesh. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck's that? Like, I went to the doctor. He's like, oh yeah, it's like, you've got skin mites. Like, what the fuck? He's like, do you eat in your room? Is there, like, mold in your room? Is there anything, like, unclean in your room? You haven't cleaned in a while, like, this, that, and the rest. Like, and I was like, I don't know. And then I thought about the carpet, and then, like, all of these fucking flashbacks of all these takeaways of, like, fucking, and then, like, never cleaned and shit. I was such a mess back then. Like, when you're, like, an early teenager, especially when you're in, like, a fucking broken home where you're just, like, smoking and drinking all the time, like, you know, like, it never occurs to you to, like, actually clean. Like, you tidy up, you know, you do your fucking laundry, you do whatever, like, you know, you fucking put things away, like, you'll like hoover now and again or some shit when, like, especially if, like, an ashtray spills or something, like, you're like, ah, fucking boo, like, but, like, you never, like, think of, like, actually scrubbing the place down, like, washing the walls and shit, like, do you know what I mean? Like, you just, like, you look at something that used to be white 4 years later, and you're like, wasn't that white? It's, like, now like a dark tint of beige. Like, it's fucking horrible. Like, oh, Corberu, welcome, Antonio, Demonu, Stabaru, everybody firing in. Rate and sweaty to the goo. I was fucking sweating bullets when I was doing the intro. It's fucking warm in here. It's a nice day out. Like, I don't know if you'll be able to hear. There's more construction going on outside, so let me know. Give me the 5x5 if all you hear is a lot of hammering. You know, they literally have a digger, like, right outside my door, and they're just like tearing up the road and shit. Like, rock lobster would be extreme torture. Rock lobster? I've never heard of that. What the fuck is rock lobster? Right. Shit, I'm already 20 minutes in. I can only do an hour today, my beloved Japanites. I'm afraid I have stuff to do with the female. She's taken the day off work. We have shit to do. She's not feeling well, and that means I have to rearrange shit and take over some daily duties as she rests. The alien coming from your stomach would have been next. I was fucking like, I had a hernia a few years ago. Don't know how long it would be now. How long it would be now? Like I've had 2 hernias in my entire life, and the first one I got I was 8 years old, and people were like, "How the fuck?" Like, I remember like I was sitting in the sitting room like playing with toys or like eating cereal or something like, and I was in my nan's house, and we'd already been to the doctor, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's a fucking, what did they call it? A gastric hernia or some shit like that." Like, and it was right above, just like an inch above my belly button, a bit of my bowel just boop, and like dead center. You know the seam in between your abs. Like, you have like everyone has a 6-pack. It's just whether you can see it or not. Like, do you know what I mean? So like right in between your 6-pack, there's like, fascia and stuff like that, and like through that it leads into the cavity where all your fucking bowels and stuff are, like. And I think what happened to me is like fairly common apparently, where at least these days, is like I didn't grow correctly when I was young, so there was like a gap or a weakness in the abdominal wall. And one day I was like eating like a huge bowl of like pasta and potato and cheese and tuna. I had requested, my godmother turned around to me. She was babysitting me, and she was like, "What do you want for your lunch?" And I was like, I like listed my 4 or 5 favorite like foods at the time, and I was just like, "Can you just put all of them in a bowl?" Like, So it's just like carbs, and more, pasta, cheese, like apart from the tuna, it's like a lot of stuff that's like really filling and shit. Like, so I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Is like I overfed myself, and boop, it popped out. Like, but there was no pain. I didn't feel it, and I did feel a bit weird though. I remember feeling a bit odd. What was I, about fucking 8 or 9, I think, and probably younger actually, probably like 6 or 7. And I felt a bit weird, and I looked down, and I just seen this like lump in my, like, on my belly. You know when you're still young and you kind of have like a bit of a pot belly. When you're still a kid, like, and I just seen this like little lump coming out of my like pudge of a belly. Like, I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, so I went into my godmother, and I was like, "Look at this." And I remember my godmother's face. She was like, "Oh, look at that. What's that?" Like, "What's up, Will? How's things?" Like fair play to her, but she was like freaking out on the inside. She was like, "Oh my god, what the fuck is wrong with the child?" Like, brought me to hospital anyway. They figure out it's a hernia, blah blah. And I got the surgery and it was fine. Like, do you know what I mean? I had a bandage around me. Fucking got to get 2 weeks off school, and then when I came back, I had a cool story of like the attention was on me for like a day. I was like, "Oh, this is cool." Because I like stood up in the middle of class. I was like, "Yeah, they cut me open, look!" And I had like big bandage around me and all like stitches on me and shit. Like, I was one of those kids, like, do you know what I mean? I'd be like, "Look at my scar!" Like, it's awesome. Fuck it. And then I don't know. It was like 5 years ago now. It was several years ago now. I was same thing, sitting down having dinner with the female in the room, and we were just watching telly or something. Well, it wasn't the same thing actually. Like, what happened was I stood up. I'm pretty sure like right after I like finished what I was eating or something like that. Like, and apparently this is one of the things that can cause it, is like if you stand up right after a meal or something, like, cause if you're like bloated or something. But I stood up, and I remember turning around and looking at her, and I like tried to say something, and I just went like, and I passed out and dropped out onto the bed. And I remember passing out, and then I lose like 10-15 seconds or however long I was out, and I wake up on the bed, and the female's just like over me. She's like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 Alex, are you okay?" Like, I'm like, "Oh," like coming through. And she's like freaking out. She's like, "You're alright, you're alright." And I immediately, I don't know why, like I instinctually immediately, like, well, I suppose this, like, that's what you do, like, but I remember like almost specifically looking at my stomach, because I just looked down and I seen a lump, and I was like, "Oh fuck, I know exactly what that is. Like, I've had one of these before." And I was like, "Oh no, like I have a hernia, fuck." Like, because at the time, like, I wanted to, like, I was like hemming and hawing about trying to get the money together to join a fighting gym that 2 of my friends were already in. I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe I should do it." And all, like, But it was a kind of expensive endeavor, like, you know, get the gear and all this stuff. And I was on fucking, I was in between jobs at the time, so I was like, oh, I don't know, like, you know, how I feel about this and all, like, and I was hemming and hawing, and then I fucking got a hernia. I was like, well, can't fucking train now. And it took the fucking, you know, I was on the public health thing, and went to a local hospital, like really fucking, like horrible hospital, like, you know, overcrowded, fucking, just horrible place. The energy in the place is just like death and despair, and like nearly 2 years. It was nearly 2 years between like getting, you know, seen to, and they're like, right, you have a hernia, we're gonna bring you in for this and all, and fucking, I've told the story before where they like took me into the hospital, and I was, you know, there hours and hours and hours, and I finally get seen to, and then some Indian lad had a go at me and fucking put his 2 fingers on it, and it was just like, now relax and breathe gently, and I was just like, all right, and all, like, and he just like pushed it back in a bit, and I remember looking down and I was like, did you just fix it? Like, are you serious? Like, because he kind of just like felt where it came out and tried to like massage it back in and all, like, and he was like, he was almost confident he could put it in, like, just doing that, like, manually, and then see how I went and stuff. But then he was, him and Han, he was like, you know what, like, I'm going to cut you open in the morning about 9 o'clock, and we'll just put it back in and see how you healed up. And I'm not going to put a mesh in or anything like that, and blah, blah. Because I didn't want them to put a mesh in, because depending on how I healed, again, I was thinking about when I was, like, sparring or whatever, I was like, if I get hit there real hard, it'll like tear the mesh, and I'll have like a vulnerability in my, right in the center of my abdomen. I'll have like a vulnerability in the like overall structure of my abdomen and shit. Like, so I was like, if I take a good teep or a fucking body shot or some shit like that, like, forget about, like, you know, being like, oh, my liver or some shit. I'd be like, oh, fucking like opening a fucking old wound or something, like. I was like, oh, please just don't put the thing in, just let me heal like normally, you know, because the way I was thinking, it was like, if it just heals normally, it'd probably be all right. But if they put like a fucking plastic mesh over me or some shit, it would increase the chance, because there would be tension around, you know, the like, because it's pulling everything together. But they kind of ended up doing that anyway. Like, I had to go back a few days later because they left like stitches in me that were like too, they were too long at the ends, and they were actually like, I could feel the thing poking through the wound as it was trying to heal and all. It was horrible. Such a fucking uncomfortable experience. I was literally walking around like I'd been stabbed. You know, like, it's crazy, because like when I was a kid, it's not like I was on a lot of painkillers, you know, and I just had this like small incision in me, and then stitches, and then they put a bandage around me and all, like, but I don't remember being in a major amount of pain at all. But fuck me, this time around, oh my god, I was walking around like somebody fucking just put a blade in me, gut, and walked away. Like, it was horrible, you know. And then I had to go in and they had to cut me open again and snip off the excess stitches and stuff and all, like. And then there was that whole rigmarole of like, when they did that, they brought me into a minor theater room. No, I don't even think it was a minor theater room. It was just this like, just looked like a normal kind of like diagnostic room where you'd sit some down and you have like some diagnostic tools and you'd have a look at them, like. And they lied me down on this bed, two, I think one of them was like Filipino and one of them was like Indian or something, like, or they were both Indian, because at one stage they were speaking to each other in a different language, and it's just these two bitches like over me. Like, they asked me to put my hands over my head and, like, you know, get my hands out of the way and all and just relax, and she fucking cut me open. Just a little bit, just to get to the stitches, but she cut me open there and then in like a, you know, a non-clean room and all this shit, like, which, like, you know, realistically, like, it's not that bad, whatever, like, you know, fucking, as long as there's alcohol swabs and shit like that, like. But she leaned across to the other nurse while when I'm lying there, she's got like a flap of my abdomen open, and she's like, the other one's holding it with the scissors so she can get at the stitches and snip off the excess and all. I'm like this, and I'm just like, you know, and like, she did give me a local, like, she hit me with a needle, so it was all numbed up, so it's not like I was like, you know, like getting cut open, like. And she leaned across to the other one and whispered, she was like, this shouldn't have been done in a minor theater. And I'm like, then why did you do it? Like, it was a crazy experience, like, just being at the like just being at the mercy of a public health system in a first world country. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, Ireland has like so many advantages. Like, I'm fucking streaming on the internet. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't need or want for anything. Like, you know, and I'm piss poor. Like, do you know, like what Owen talks about is so true. That like you have our version of like, oh, like I'm broke. You still live like a fucking king compared to like the majority of the realm. Like, do you know what I mean? There's like so many Chinese people living in huts and stuff, like, you know, like Africa, all that shit. Like, and it's just crazy. It's a crazy humbling experience where you're just like you're put through this like meat grinder. You know, social welfare system, the social health system, it's all the same. It's just this like fucking meat grinder of data. You're not a human anymore. You're just a number. Very similar to school, but like way worse. And it's like really demeaning and like, but it like it's not like the people you deal with are like always assholes. Quite the opposite, actually. Like most of the people I've met, like social workers and shit, are like some of the nicest people you ever meet, which makes sense because they're serving others, you know, and it takes that kind of mentality. But then I'd say maybe like a strong 40% of the people who work for the government and the social system and shit like that are like trolls and goblins and shit, like, do you know what I mean, who like don't fucking care at all about anyone. They just want a steady paycheck for fuck all work and all this shit, like, and that's what generates this like insane mire, this like fucking swamp of a system that like all these people kind of just have to drudge through. It's like that grey godless wilderness vibe that you get in like London or like parts of Scotland, definitely in Ireland, and totally in America, where it's like it's just this concrete jungle. It's a concrete jungle of just like numbers and data and logistics, and there's no soul in it. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just like all stripped out. And sure, you get apologies and stuff like that, and like, you know, people will have pity on you or whatever, or like, you know, try and help you out as best they can when they're face to face to you. But all the fucking files and documents and things you have to fill out, and like the stuff that gets said to you, and like how it's made blatantly apparent to you that like you literally are just like fucking a bee in a hive, you know, and if you don't like adhere to these parameters and stuff like this, and if you don't do these things and whatever, it's like then we will just cut you off, you know. And it's kind of like, whoa, like it's crazy. And like, because it's initially proposed to you in a sense of like, this is where people go who need help because like they're in a bad situation, and then you go there and you're kind of like, it's not like they have this overwhelming sense of like, well, what did you expect? This is the best we can do with the limited resources that we have. And it's like, limited resources? You're the government. Like, what the fuck? Like in my mind, like, does it not make more sense for the fucking that stuff to be like the highest quality? Like, if you have a government system that's like, we take care of the people who can't take care of themselves, like, you know, both the good and the bad, you know, like genuine victims of like unfortunate circumstances, and people who are like degenerate and undisciplined and stuff like that. Like, you know, we are the government. Like, with all the resources and all the tax money you take off everyone and shit like that, you would expect stuff to be like ridiculously high quality, because it's like you're literally parasitically sucking off of your society with the justification of helping the society, but it doesn't. If anything, it perpetuates many of society's problems. Like, and like, that's what, from my perspective, going through it for years and all, in between jobs and after school and shit and all, like, and experiencing what people would describe as like kind of the lower economic standard of life here. It's crazy. Like, it's fucking crazy. Like, and I do feel genuinely blessed to have like made it through, you know, some situations where I'm like, well, thank God it didn't go worse, you know. Because it could have. It totally could have, like. Dimarshu! Welcome you! Enjoying the hospital war stories. Switching to TV, so won't see comments. Good day to you all. And I'm glad you're here, D. How you doing? You well? Justin Timberlake arrested for drinking the bubbly in Sag Harbor, New York, DUI. Is that like the other day? Is that recent? Justin Timberlake arrested for drinking the bubbly in Sag Harbor. You got a DUI. What a loser! Like, man, if you're Justin Timberlake, why are you driving anywhere? Like, come on, like, you got that much fucking money, probably from royalties and songs and stuff like that. So even if you haven't done anything recently in the last few years and shit, you're Justin Timberlake. Like, do you know what I mean? You still got fucking money, and you're fucking driving. That's what I like. I think it is hilarious that Owen ripped apart Keanu Reeves and made it out that he's quite possibly a trans. Because sometimes I looked at the photos of the scar and all, I was like, it's a gnarly scar. Like, what the fuck is that shit? Like, and then you look at him and you're kind of like, eh. But I remember seeing that shit about Keanu where, like, you know, despite being filthy rich, he like still takes the subway and stuff, like, you know, and that's like, whether it is just optics or propaganda or whatever like that, like, that's fucking good optics. Like, that's how I would want to be if, like, it, like, say, like, if PEINTEINGU went viral or something, I start getting a load of fucking money from super chats and, like, you know, stuff like I said. It's like, you know, if a company that sold brushes or something came to me and was like, oh, we want to sponsor your channel, I'd be like, yeah, all right, fucking, that's okay. Like, you know, I'm not gonna fucking, I'm like, the amount of messages I've already gotten in my Rumble comments is like, we'd like to take your stream to the next level and all, and you're just like, stay the fuck away from me, like, do you know? And then like half of it is just bot scams and stuff, like. So I can only imagine what, like, the shit that comes across people's desks. Like, you know, all these streamers who got like the amount, like, all of the, you know, fucking semi-famous to famous streamers that would be approached by something like League of Legends, you know, it's just so pervasive, like, it's fucking everywhere. Like, they have an insane amount of money, so it's just like their ability to advertise is just insane, like, you know. Yeah, like, I'd that's what I agree with Owen with that shit. Like, I wouldn't go near any of that stuff where you're like, promo code blah blah blah, and like, this episode is sponsored by, like I wouldn't mind saying stuff like, this stream is sponsored by Pebeo because I use their paint, shit like that. Do you know what I mean? I don't see a problem with that. But the other stuff of, like, fucking like being real, the way Shapiro is like ball and branch, like, do you know what I mean? The way he pitches is hilariously retarded and obviously fake. But if he genuinely buys their sheets and they sponsor his stream, I don't see an issue with that. It's just sheets. Do you know what I mean? Unless it's like, unless they're being made by like sweatshops with child laborers and stuff. You know, like, that's where I draw. It's like, if you can look at a business and be like, okay, it's just a genuine business. They sell brushes and paint stuff, you know, whatever. Like, but then if somebody turned around to me and was like, did you know that, like, all the paint you use is made out of, like, the organs harvested from Chinese immigrants? Like, you know, I'd be like, what? Like, that's kind of why I love the Truther realm. I'm like, come on. I mean, like, some shit's just off the wall. Like, I was saying that to Pruner Bear the other day. Yeah, fucking John O'Shea, who's in the chat now and again. Do you guys hear about this shit? The execution vans, the death vans and stuff in China, where, like, if you're wanted for a crime and you, like, get the death penalty or some shit for a crime, they'll just drive up to where you're at in a van that's, like, kitted out with, like, it's basically like an ambulance, but it's like fitted out slightly different, and it also has, like, curtains for privacy. And, like, I've watched whole videos of this on YouTube. There's these guys called like, Stabaru knows one of the lads, Serpanza or Serpentenza or some shit, and another guy called Lao Hoi or Lao Ho. They're two white dudes who used to live in China for a few years, and they're like, you will not believe the shit that is going on in these countries. Like, it's really interesting stuff. But then you have to ask yourself the question, like, are those two paid to do negative propaganda about China? I don't know. All I know is that was a glorious Gepu. Oh yes, female. Where's my coffee? She may be sick, but she's not dead, you know? Between the death vans and the organ harvesting is pretty sick. Yeah, Serpentza or something, and then Lao Wei or Lao Y 86. Those are the two lads I've seen in my feed on YouTube as well. I've watched a few of their videos. Crazy shit. Anything, and it's not just like the government stuff as well. It's like the topography, the geography of China has become like, well, not has become. It, like they get like wild earthquakes and mud floods and like all this shit. Like, you know, Japan's the same. Like, it's like that section of the realm is extremely geographically volatile. You know, regularly. You know. I also have to take into it like the vast expanse that is China. Obviously, there's going to be like wild monsoons and thunderstorms and all these things. Like, because as far as I know, that's how that shit works. Is the more land you have, in contrast to how much water it's surrounded by, I think is what builds the energy for inclement weather patterns like that. You know, which is why like Ireland has like really benign weather because it's like sheltered by a bigger island. And then there's like a vast expanse of ocean between it and America. You know, it's like we're almost like shielded and then also have like a lot of breathing space. It's weird. Like you can kind of notice the patterns where it's like certain continents, like you can see why the weather patterns like really fuck up certain places and shit. And then you've also got like how high something is or how low something is, you know, like hot or cold or whatever. Like it's fucking insane the shit happening in China though. All the sinkholes. And then there's the theory that like, which I would totally believe, that's a combination of the two things, right? So all of these, like the massive amount of infrastructure that like places like China or even like Texas, Austin, Texas in America are like digging up insane amounts of stuff and then like building insane amounts of stuff, right? So I have like huge, vast expanses of houses, housing estates, apartment blocks, like, and think about how much like a fucking 40-50 story building weighs, right? And then basically what they're saying is that a lot of the geography or the landscape in China that's being used for these like huge fucking construction projects, they're not taking into account the water table and stuff like that, where they're just like, sorry, I have a schnoz in my schnoz. They're not taking into account the water table and shit like that, like, you know, and the geography. So what they're doing is they're just like bulldozing massive sections of terrain and then knocking up a whole place. And what happens over time is like when it settles and the weight of everything kind of like, you know, starts to settle and shit, you get these buildings like leaning, falling over, straight up being swallowed by a sinkhole in the ground. But then there's the other kind of sinkholes that I've noticed. There's two different kind of sinkholes that I've noticed, right? Where, and this is over like the last 10 years, like everywhere, because you see YouTube videos like all about sinkholes and why is there so many sinkholes showing up like everywhere, like from Ireland to China to Miami. There was a period of time on the internet a few years ago where you could watch videos and there'd be fucking sinkholes showing up all over the place like fucking Swiss cheese. And some of them look organic, you know. It looks like jagged and organic and like it looks like the result of poor planning or building or an earthquake or like some kind of like vicious movement into vicious natural movement into terrain, like a mudslide or something like. But there's also sinkholes that are near perfect circles, and they just like pop up and it's just like boom, shit's just gone. And there's loads of these that have either been discovered or shown up suddenly, or have been known about for a while and all. Like there's one called there's one I seen there recently which is called Mel's Hole in fucking Australia, and there's this whole story behind it where like apparently the military like fucking cordoned off the area and had a look at it and shit. The fucking, yeah, I know, like Mel's Hole. Like they were like throwing shit down it and all, like, and it's just disappearing, like. That stuff gets a bit woo-woo because apparently they put a sheep down it, and then when they pulled up there was like some kind of like unknown organism on it, like, and it like crawled all over the place, like. Oh, you did hear me. Thank you, my love. When I rang the gong. Oh. What did you not hear me ring the gong? Because I was like, where's my coffee? I didn't. Did you fall asleep? Did you? Down there making. Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh, glorious. Sorry, I have to keep checking my phone. Oh, God. Yeah, the sinkhole stuff is fucking fascinating. But I've only got 15 minutes left. Jesus. Will I just keep talking shit for the next 15? Because I'm not gonna get much painting done in 15 minutes. The thing where I was going with the sinkholes was there's a lot of evidence, and like, you know, it's not really talked about. Like, obviously it's talked about in truther communities and stuff like that and all, like, but there's like tunnels all over the place. There's like vast expanses of tunnels all over the place in most countries. Everything from like the Vatican stuff, where you have all of these like old buildings that have a shitload of secret tunnels and passageways that lead, like, they were either used to escape battles or some shit like that, like, you know, invasion, all sorts. But then you have like, you know, black site shit, like, do you know what I mean, where it's like government programs that, like, you know, people know about, but like this, like, think about it, right? Everybody knows that there's stuff called top secret. You know, like the fucking movies, like, growing up and all, are like top secret with the red writing, right? So there's stuff like, look at what Vox and Owen and all called that website, unauthorized.tv, right? The majority of the population is unauthorized, and those who are authorized are only authorized to a particular level, right? So even the people who are in the know are never in the know about, like, everything. It's all compartmentalized. And that's why quite often, like, 70 years or something goes by, and then a lot of the shit just, like, kind of, like, the truth always comes out, right? But that's what I always think is fascinating, is, like, while we're trying to just live life, there are some fucking wild things going on all the time. And it's, like, not just stuff that you would find fairly, you know, in a sense, normal, like, you know, conspiracies to kill people or something, like, you know, kind of stuff that feels at least human, where it's like crimes of passion, conspiracies, like people hiding stuff because they don't want to get caught, like all of these kind of, like, you know, fairly primal behaviors. Like, there's the really intricate, wild stuff where, like, if you've ever seen the movies, the Resident Evil movies, or played the games, right? There's this corporation called the Umbrella Corporation, and that's one of those things that's real kind of like, I'd call that gravy. It's like a hint at, like, there are people who are aware that there is, like, shadow government shit, and, like, of course there is, because there's, like, all a government is a localized authority of power. You know, they have a local monopoly of power and control and shit, and it's usually dictated by force, right? That's all a government is. So what's above government? Above government are the banks, you know, allegedly. Like, that's what that's what most of the truthers say. It's like, okay, you got government, and then who's actually ruled by the government? It's like the government actually adheres to the market, you know, essentially is what that is saying. It's like our desire and our will dictates ultimately the government, which is why it makes sense when somebody like Owen turns around and he's like, we are the government. The government isn't, like, out to get you. The government is a result of our behavior. That's totally true. Like, but in that, if you say, you're like, oh, okay, so at the highest level, this is all actually us, and we have to take personal accountability. It's like, yeah, look at people like John Dee and Aleister Crowley, and, like, the guys who came to America first, and, like, on all these stories about all these men who were the first to get to a location, allegedly, and set up all of these systems, and, like, you know, where all this shit, and we're, like, coming to the game real late, you know, like, everybody listening to this stream right now is like, what, Tenny is listening right now. I'm 30 years old. Griff's like, Griff, what are you, nearly 50? You're in your, like, mid 40s or something? Fucking Chris, what are you, 40-ish? Like, none of us have a like ability to genuinely recall or have an awareness of, due to family relations or ancestors. Well, very few of us anyway. We don't have any, like, tangible fucking connection with our past and our history, like, on a real, like, on a fucking, like, really fundamental level, like, and that's why people like me would like look at all stories and be like, so which ones are true, which one is like obfuscation, which one is conspiracy, would like, did people actually do this and stuff, like the thing Operation High Jump at Admiral Byrd, and they go to Antarctica and they look for, like, that's one of the biggest truther things of like Operation High Jump is insane when they went to the ice wall and all this shit, they were chasing Hitler and blah blah, like apparently a big battle went down there and shit, like, and like Admiral Byrd comes back and is on the telly and says all these things about a vast continent with unlimited resources and all this shit. Like, the stuff always comes out and it's always happening, and like, because I think of where we are in the timeline now, I think like an overwhelming amount of shit is about to come out in the next few years, and people's like consciousnesses are going to have the opportunity to really expand, and like, fucking all of these wonderful things are going to happen, but at the same time some wild, crazy, like unbelievably dark things are going to happen, because like they already have happened and now they're going to happen again, but they're going to happen like out in the open and people are going to be aware of it and shit. Like I was talking about in the stream there yesterday briefly, I think, where like a lot of these cult practices and stuff, that like aren't spoken, like all the shit they took out of the Bible probably, and all the shit they have in the Vatican, all the shit they don't want you to know about the first religions, the first belief systems, the first gods, the first like idols that we had, the first gods that we had, and like what they were called and what they were for, and like, it's, most of it has this overwhelming amount of blood magic and alchemy and child sacrifice and sex magic and all this fucking shit, and pretty much all the gods supposedly require some kind of like sin, where it's like wife swapping or fucking polygamy or whatever, like, like, it's like they don't want, they typically, these gods have no desire for what we would call now, a fucking moral, good, true and beautiful, symmetrical, like harmonious system. What they want is like no rules, pure desire, pure will, not even pure will. What they want is pure influence, fucking just pure like instinctual shit. They want you to be animals. That's what it is, really. Like, is like they want you to be like like burn your child for me and I'll grant you some kind of like gift or sight or power. Like, and apparently like some of this shit is real, where like, you do these like insanely dark things and you do get some sort of like reward for it, like, and it's tangible and it's real, but then what's the cost? And apparently what we can see is the cost is like, you start becoming something else other than human and shit. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, well, it's not kind of crazy, it is fucking crazy, but it's like, I think the way all this is going is it's like an active and conscious like separation. Like, I don't necessarily some people say wheat from the chaff, like especially the Christians, where it's like, oh yeah, this place is a test and like the good will be separated from the bad and stuff like that. Like, and in a sense that, like, I think that like basically is what it is. Like, because what I was going to say is essentially like, once think about it, like life is basically like perception, and like consciousness is basically awareness. Like, it's like, when a shit ton of people become aware of certain things, well, as an individual, when you become aware of certain things, you're given a choice. Essentially that's what it is. When you become aware of certain things, you now have a choice. Do you still do certain behaviors now that you are aware of what those behaviors cause or what those behaviors entail? Like, it's the same as like once you touch something hot and it burns you. There are some people out there that, whether it's like a demonic entity that has like enveloped them or some shit like that, or whether they are just like that's the way they are. There's some people that will intentionally put their hand back on the hot thing and burn themselves like really badly. Like, like I've kind of got a little bit of that in me. Like, do you know what I mean? Like when I had a really dark suicidal period in my life, like I did some intense self harm, like the kind of self harm you don't typically see on people. Like, you know, it's like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, a lot of teenage self harm. Like it was like very superficial. You know, like they're not in any danger really with this sort of stuff that they do. You know, cutting and shit like that. Like it's not like they're actually in any danger of killing themselves unless they like really fuck up and slip or some shit. Like, you know. What's the crack, Pruner? Are you well? I'm just like I just spent the last hour like shiting on. I'm gonna head off in a few minutes now. I have shit to do today. Today's just an hour of me talking. I'll catch up on the chat real quick, instead of just keep rambling. Like, Okrin checking in. Ever heard of gutter oil? That is about the grossest thing to come out of China. Gutter oil. Is that where they take? I've heard stuff like that. Like they're starting to make synthetic meat out of shit, feces. They're collecting the protein from feces from sewers, and they're like processing it, and they're turning it into burgers and steaks and stuff like that. So people are now literally eating shit. And then there's the plastic stuff. They have fake meat that is essentially like it's not organic. It's a synthetic, like rubber kind of like plastic. Like as far as I know, you can still digest it. But then I did see some shit where people were getting ill because their body can't digest the stuff that they're selling. Crazy shit. According to Mel's Hall, they have recorded sounds deep in the crevices. Yeah, they put like various like listening devices and fucking sensors and stuff over Mel's Hall. And there's like voices and shit. And radio stations for 50 years ago at the time. Can't remember what date it was when they actually investigated it. But they were like the radio station frequency they picked up was like from the fucking 30s or something. It's crazy. Mad shit, like. And that's not the only type of like one of those huge like sinkhole, like weird looking hole. And they're generally like perfectly circular. Which is like I think they're like I think they're like meridian lines or something. Like there's parts of your body, right? I don't care like fucking, not that I don't care, like I think people who dismiss a lot of stuff, what people used to call like, you know, holistic healing and like, you know, fucking the more Eastern stuff, like, you know, like chakras and meridian lines and all that stuff's real. All that stuff's totally fucking real. All it is the electrical signals moving through your nervous system and your fucking your blood vessels and where they're located and where they're concentrated and shit like that. Like all chi is energy flow. All energy flow is your ability, is your nervous system's ability to send signals in a, like, you know, instantly and shit like that. Like and your cardiovascular system, your fucking lymphatic system or whatever like that, like the stuff that allows all the fluids in your body to like move throughout your body and shit like that. And that's why Tai Chi, like all it is like movement is medicine. Like if you're just moving your body and stuff like that, like what you're doing is like there's liquid in you, you know. So when you get a bucket and you move the water around, if you move the bucket in the right way and you get that centrifugal I can't remember. You get that circular motion going and you'll get the momentum, and then you get the fucking like the vortex in the water and shit. Like, you know, it's like Christopher Gardner talks about that where he vortexes his water, and you can get those magnet vase things that vortex your water. It's not just woo woo, like, do you know what I mean? Like there's loads of stuff that isn't woo woo, that's like legitimate science, and the reason why mainstream science doesn't want to touch it is because they're not going to make money off of it because it would legitimately compete, which is kind of stupid in certain circumstances, because you'd think, well, no, it's not stupid. I suppose that's what happens every time, isn't it? Is like, I was about to say, why don't private investors like try and just like compete in the market, and then that is what happens, isn't it? Is like they'll just send lads to like put a bomb under their car or fucking like poison them with some kind of radioactive isotope when they're at a cafe or some shit. Like, Like, I think that's genuinely what happens. Like, do you know what I mean? Where it's like they like someone like OPEC or Tesla or Facebook, like, you know, these like too big to fail things. When they get wind of a potential competitor, they just squash them immediately. Now, whether that means assassinating them or putting a hit piece out in a local paper that they're like a pedophile or some shit like that happens all the time. Where like people get done, you know, in a reputation sense. Their reputation is completely tarnished, and none of it's true. And the reason why they went so hard at wrecking that person's reputation is because they were like, they wouldn't let this particular thing go, and they were like, no, this is true. This is true. I'm gonna let everyone know this is true. And they'll be like, all right, well, we're gonna let everyone know that you're a pedophile. And like, what? I'm not a pedophile. You are now. We found loads of videotapes. Do you know, it's like they can just do that shit. Do you know what I mean? Like all those crimes of like, you know, you'd be a black lad and be like, nigga, you planted that shit on me. That's not mine. Like, that does happen. Do you know what I mean? No, it doesn't, like, it never happens to the guy that says that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the guy that says that is generally very guilty. But, like, that stuff does happen where, like, corrupt people in authority do horrible, shady, dark shit. And it's wrong. And the good people in authority know it's wrong. And that's why you get people who are like hellbent and like, I'm gonna fix the system from the inside out and all, like. But the problem is the system ultimately runs on all of our collective will. Which is why getting into politics or any of these things, unless it's like very local, is generally pointless. You know, voting, all this shite, like, you know, because it's such a vast system and it's controlled by such fucking off the wall demons at this stage that trying to get in there and work your way up and do something good is like nigh on impossible, if not counterproductive. You know, it's like way more effective to just like build outside of it, you know, and try and compete with it in the realm of natural law where they don't have any jurisdiction or authority and they can't fuck with like God's law and stuff, like, you know, that kind of thing. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this rant. I can only do an hour today, and I must leave you. I must leave you, my beloved Japanites, I am afraid. Mammoth Caves, just north of us, in the largest cave system in the world, over 400 miles allegedly. Like, they have found cave systems that have their own fucking weather system because it's so big. You go into a cave and you go down a tunnel, and then it's like, does this even go anywhere? And then you get these like spelunking diver lads that like literally like crawl through a crevice with like a fucking, what you call it, those GoPros and stuff. They have like oxygen tanks and shit and all in case they get caught and all, like crazy stuff. Like the type of like, if you are in any way claustrophobic, it's like your worst fucking nightmare. And then they'll find a fucking like pocket, you know, where they just like you would find a fucking vein of gold in a mine, you know, if you're just digging through the earth. These fuckers have found, these explorers, archaeologists, geologists, all these fucking different people have found places. You can go look them up on the internet. There's books about them. It's been around fucking years, like, you know, it's all this stuff. Just like they'll be like, oh, in the 1920s there was actually like a photo of a dude with a giant. This shit's been around like a while. Where like they have found caves that are so fucking big, it's like something out of Journey to the Center of the Earth, where they go into this fucking thing and it's got animals they have never seen, it's got insects they've never seen, it's got fucking birds they've never seen, it's fucking raining, like, you know, like, and they're like, what the fuck? Like, it's crazy, like, do you know what I mean? That's what, like, I think there's definitely something to Hollow Earth. You know, there's definitely something to Hollow Earth, like, you know. The realm is far more vast and far more wonderful and interesting than they've made it out to be, you know. All this talk of like, oh, these things are extinct now and these are all gone and like, you know, we've explored all this and this is all we found here, and it's all lies. It's all bullshit. It's all geared towards being like the way I used to think about it was like, think about it, you're in a jungle, right, and you're monkeys and you're searching for like a section of the jungle that has a lot of banana trees. so you can like hunker down for a while and eat all the bananas for a while. Like, you'll generally like send out scouts or split up, right? The monkeys who find the bananas first are always going to eat some of the bananas. They're not just going to be like, we found the bananas, right, let's go tell everyone. They'll get, because they've been looking and all, and because they're fucking monkeys, they'll get to the bananas and they'll be like, ooh, bananas. And they'll eat some of the bananas. Maybe a lot of the bananas, depending on how many bananas they found. And then they'll go, right, let's tell the others. You know? And generally there'll be one that's like, let's not. You know, like, it's not just humans. Like, you know, like, animals exhibit behavior where, like, you know, they'll hoard things, they'll like fight over shit, you know. And like, we do that. But we just like, we have a more sophisticated form of communicating. So we make it like, it's like we dress it up with stuff like religion and morals and fucking like philosophy and shit like this. When a lot of it is just very simple, you know. Like, that's why I love that example of power. I was only saying this to Demon Hunter Bear and his missus there the other day. It's like one of the coolest scenes I've ever seen in anything ever. It was a scene in Game of Thrones where Littlefinger and Queen Cersei are talking, and she's got 4 guards with her, obviously, because she's the queen. She's walking around like she's got her 4 guards with her. And Littlefinger is trying to be a smart arse little shithead, and he's like, we all know knowledge is power, and he's basically trying to let her know that he knows something, and he's trying to like leverage her, you know, using his knowledge. And she cops it immediately, and she's just like, fuck you, you little shit. And she goes like, he's like, you know, knowledge is power. And she's like, oh, yeah, really? And she basically goes, you know, take him. And then the 2 of the 4 lads move forward and grab him. And he's like, oh, what the fuck? And she's like, slit his throat. Oh, wait, I changed my mind. Like, so she goes slit his throat, and one of them immediately takes out a knife and is about to slit his throat. And she's like, wait, I changed my mind. And then he stops. And then she's like, turn around, walk 5 paces. And now stay there, you know. And they do everything that she says. And Littlefinger's like standing there like, what the fuck, did she just like nearly have me killed and all? Like, and she walks up to him and looks him in the eye, and she's like, power is power. Don't ever forget that, you know. And like, I remember watching that and I was like, that is like the coolest fucking way to explain that like concept ever. Because it's like, what you know means very little in a lot. It's like, can you act upon what you know? That kind of thing. It's like, what you can do is your power, not what you can like say, or, you know, because like, nobody will ever, like, there's never going to be a situation where you just like get up in front of the world and go, this is the truth, and everything's okay. Half of them won't listen to you, half of them won't like, a third of them won't listen to you, a third of them won't care, you know, like that kind of thing. Like, it's like what you can tangibly do, that's your power. And I'll finish on that because I'm just going to keep talking. They just wanted Poon. Who just wanted Poon? No worries. All good to drop in to say hi anyway. Lighthearted as usual. Jesus. I know, something like, I love talking about the really dark shit though. Like, I was only saying that to the female there the other day. It's like, when I was watching the fucking interviews and all that shit, like, I'm just gonna keep talking and you shut up. I'm already 9 minutes over. I want to catch up on the chat though. I'm getting into homeopathic medicine at the moment. It's awesome. You learn some really cool shit. It's all just alchemy. Many people who have gone around with solutions to cancer have disappeared. Yeah, that's just how it works. It's like, if like, that's essentially what it is. It's like, if you're going to in any way impact negatively a current like $1 billion market or whatever like that, they'll just straight up kill you. They just disappear your ass. Like, I mean, the government gets away with murder all the time. All governments get away with murder all the time, you know. And it doesn't mean everybody in the government is evil. It doesn't mean the government is evil. But people in corrupt people in authoritative positions and shit, they get away with fucking, like, they get away with worse crimes than like people outside the system, you know. Like, a lot of the time. There's people in governments that are like way worse than some like jungle warlord or a fucking cartel member. And them niggas fucking somebody has a paid painting goo. Them niggas fucking skin people and hang people from fucking bridges and shit. To Waker's honor. Paying away my catastrophically late arrival. You're alright, man. You didn't miss much. Just me talking shit for an hour. I'll be back on tomorrow for another proper glorious episode of Painting Goo. It's just the female's home today. She wasn't feeling well, so I have to do stuff around the house and shit like that, so I can only do an hour today. And I've already done an hour and 10 minutes, so you should pay more for Painting Goo because I've done an extra 10 minutes. See you later, Carver. The system weeds out competition. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it does, yeah. Magpies are awesome. Live long and prosper too, Stabaroo. Indeed. I know that was backward. Is that like what does that mean? That's live long and prosper. So what if we do that? Is that like it's like die slowly and horribly? like the Vulcans do this, but the Romulans are like ugh. It's fucking it's like an English gangster fucking west side, east side. Anyway, alright, I'm gone, I'm out of here. I love you all and live you. I'll talk to you tomorrow, right? Oh god. Much love. I'll see you tomorrow. 3 o'clock I will be here. And there will be Painting Goo. Today was just one of those rant days. Much love. I'll talk to you